825 million. Yeah, let that number just kind of sink in for a second. That is the startling number of children and youths projected to leave school by the year 2030 without even basic secondary level skills. It's literally a looming, urgent crisis in our global education system. But what does a number that massive actually mean for us? Well, paint a picture of a world where nearly a billion young minds step into adulthood fundamentally unequipped. Imagine a huge global population entering the workforce without the essential tools to solve complex problems, handle their own stress, or even manage their basic finances. It's a recipe for total systemic stagnation. Basically, if we don't drastically change how we prepare students for the realities of the modern world, we are setting up an entire generation to fail.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking that scary data and transforming it into a clear, actionable blueprint, guided by the incredible insights of Mr. Gyan, Ranjan Kumar Sinha, resource person, RP 112942, CBSE, Patna. Okay, let's dive right into this. Our central metaphor for this explainer is a big one. We're upgrading traditional education paradigms into a fortified architecture of resilience for the mid-21st century. We're moving way beyond old-school rote memorization and asking a much tougher question. How do we build deep, structural life skills that help students not just survive, but truly thrive in an unpredictable future?
Here is our blueprint for today. We'll start with the foundations of life skills, move into building psychosocial architecture, look at financial and career resilience, navigating the AI frontier, future-ready leadership, and finally, the architects of tomorrow.
Let's jump right into part one, the foundations of life skills.
For decades, education has been heavily focused on memorizing facts. But to build a resilient human, you really have to install the right operating system first. The World Health Organization outlines 10 foundational life skills that serve as this non-negotiable starting point, broken down into 3 overlapping domains. First up, cognitive skills, like critical thinking and problem solving. These equip a student to objectively analyze the absolute flood of modern information. Then, emotional skills, like self-awareness and coping with stress. Because let's face it, without these, cognitive intelligence just collapses under pressure. Finally, social skills, like empathy and communication, which allow us to collaborate and build meaningful connections. These aren't just nice-to-have traits. These 10 core competencies are the foundational concrete of human resilience. They are the exact mechanisms that allow a person to adapt to sudden changes and overcome adversity.
Moving right along to Section 2, building psychosocial architecture.
So once that basic foundation is poured, we have to level up to advanced life skills. The source material defines this as an educational framework that goes way beyond basic classroom management. It specifically addresses the profound neurobiological vulnerabilities of 15 to 18-year-olds, right? Because this age group is experiencing massive brain development, making them hyper-vulnerable to psychosocial stressors. Bridging the gap for these adolescents requires active, targeted practice. One incredibly powerful interaction strategy used here is the reflect and respond circle. Instead of a teacher just lecturing about emotions, students sit in a peer environment, process a high-stress, real-world scenario, and actively practice decoupling their immediate emotional reactions from thoughtful, measured responses. It's literally a psychological workout that shifts the focus toward building deep, enduring psychological resilience.
Next up is Section 3, financial and career resilience.
Now, psychological resilience is great, but it absolutely must be paired with practical, real-world competence. Did you know 56% of teenagers feel totally unprepared for personal finance? Over half! Financial literacy is no longer some optional elective. It's a foundational necessity for long-term stability. If we send students into the world without an understanding of money, we're setting them up for immediate structural failure. To combat this, education has to introduce practical, hands-on simulations of modern banking and the rigorous discipline of budgeting. Students have to practice managing virtual accounts, spotting hidden fees, and tracking their monthly spending. We have to immerse them in the mechanics of finance before the real-world consequences hit.
A massive piece of this financial architecture is understanding debt. Think of bad debt like a structural termite. A fleeting lifestyle purchase made on a high-interest credit card silently eats away at a young adult's future economic agency, just trapping them in this endless cycle of minimum payments. On the flip side, good debt acts as scaffolding. Thoughtful educational investments or skills training have the potential to yield huge long-term returns and elevate their earning potential. Training students to easily distinguish between these two forces completely transforms how they'll navigate our modern credit-driven economy.
And then, oh man, there is the absolute magic of compound interest. It's not just a math formula on a chalkboard, it is the ultimate life strategy. Let's do the rapid math. If a student starts saving a small amount, say just $100 a month, at age 18, instead of waiting until age 30, that 12-year head start doesn't just add a little bit to their retirement account, it exponentially multiplies their wealth over time due to compounding. Showing students how early, sustainable budgeting habits do the heavy lifting for them is exactly how we empower them to take total control of their economic futures.
But financial literacy is really only half of this structural pillar. The other half is career resilience. The transition to the modern workforce requires immense grit and soft skills. To build this, educators utilize awesome interactive strategies like the minefield game. Picture this: a student has to navigate a simulated obstacle course entirely blindfolded, relying 100% on the verbal communication and guidance of their peers. If they fail, they start over. This exercise directly builds the exact cognitive demands, deep trust, clear communication, and teamwork required in today's highly collaborative work environments. It proves that bouncing back from failure together is a primary driver of success.
All right, on to Section 4, Navigating the AI Frontier. So, here's a massive question for you. How do you teach ethics to an algorithm? Well, you can't. You just can't. But you absolutely can teach ethics to the human using the algorithm. This shifts our focus entirely from passive technology consumption to active digital citizenship and rigorous media reasoning.
Let's make this super tangible. Imagine a high school student sitting down to research a complex topic using generative AI. Modern AI literacy means that student knows how to engage in prompt engineering, asking the AI precise, inquiry-based questions to explore concepts deeper. But equally, that student has to possess civic online reasoning. They need to know how to verify the output to ensure it isn't a digital hallucination or a manipulative deepfake. They must understand the ethical implications of the tool they're using, spotting potential biases in the algorithm. And throughout this whole process, they must know how to protect their own data privacy and security. AI literacy is really all about ensuring the student remains the master of the tool, never the other way around.
Which brings us to Section 5, Future-Ready Leadership. As we reach the top floor of our architecture, we're looking at the specialized leadership competencies needed for an incredibly complex world. We are undergoing a massive shift away from outdated linear business thinking, where a company simply extracts raw materials, produces goods, and creates waste, towards systems thinking. Systems thinking introduces the powerful concept of regenerative business models. So, for example, instead of a factory that pollutes a local river, a regenerative business model designs operations that actually replenish the local water table it draws from. The goal of future leaders is to design organizations that restore and create long-term value for social and environmental systems, rather than just extracting from them.
Alongside this systems approach is cultural intelligence. Why does a 17-year-old sitting in a classroom today urgently need cultural intelligence? Because their future teammates, clients, and challenges are going to span across continents and cultures instantly via the digital frontier. Cultural intelligence is the ability to engage meaningfully with diverse knowledge traditions, fostering cultural humility and true intercultural competence. Developing this profound interpersonal empathy is exactly what equips our future leaders to navigate cross-cultural dynamics smoothly, broadening what they consider as knowledge and vastly expanding their emotional intelligence.
Finally, Section 6, Architects of Tomorrow.
Let's hit pause for a second to consider the people actually building this entire structure, the educators. The work of teaching these advanced life skills is an immensely high-stress endeavor. Teachers are under unbelievable pressure right now. And the simple truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. The research highlights a critical need for resilience first aid for educators. They need high-quality, job-embedded professional development to prevent burnout and protect their own mental health first. Schools absolutely must foster emotional resilience in educators so they're fully equipped to stand at the front of the room and authentically model the exact coping skills they are trying to teach their students.
Ultimately, this defines the whole goal for our students. The absolute highest aim of competency-based advanced life skills training is preparing every student not just for the next grade, but for the rest of their lives. We are aiming to produce agile, adaptive learners who can walk out of those school doors and confidently navigate the turbulence, complexity, and incredible opportunities of the 21st century.
So, are we making our students life-ready or just test-ready? As we wrap up this brilliant blueprint provided by Mr. Gyan, Ranjan, Kumar, Sinha, we have to remember that the 21st century requires ultimate adaptability. To quote the famous futurist Alvin Toffler, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
By actively building this architecture of resilience, layering financial literacy, digital empowerment, cultural intelligence, and psychosocial foundations, we give students the exact tools they need to do exactly that. Thank you so much for exploring this vital framework with us today. Take these blueprints and let's go build the future.